now we're going to actually get into the Vision Founder Fit exercise and start working through this. Now, what I want you to think about this in terms of is most of the Vision Founder Fit is designed around setting the right destination. Like you get what you want when you design that, not necessarily get what you want by default, which means we need to set a destination and start moving towards it. If we don't have a destination, it's really tough to build a roadmap. It's really tough to optimize the path. It's really tough to change course if there's an obstacle. It's really tough to know when we're making good progress and we're not making good progress. We've got to have a destination, right? And that's the purpose of this exercise. We want to set that destination, set that vision, and then we want to start to pull that forward and ask ourselves what needs to be true at these specific stages to know if we're on track to hit that vision, okay? If we're on a path, if we're making good progress towards the destination that we've set. So both of these are really framed around, living forward and building toward. You'll also notice in this that part of this is about lifestyle and about you as a founder, and part of this is about the business. That's not accidental. It's intentional because early stage when you're building your service business and you're getting to your first 20, 30, 40K a month, then you're very connected to the business. You are delivering the services. You are oftentimes the face of the business. You are oftentimes the salesperson, the marketer. So there's no way of completely separating you from the business. And when we set this destination, what I want to make sure we do is we set some boundaries and some filters and some goals for you as a founder, as a person, and design the business intentionally to help make sure those things happen. All right. Now, here's the added benefit of that. Is that you actually are going to experience more happiness building this business by doing it this way than you would any other way, because I'm a believer in the fact that happiness comes from making progress towards a meaningful goal. If you don't have a goal, you don't know if you're making meaningful progress towards it, which takes away the sense of fulfillment and the sense of happiness that you get as you're making progress towards it. So this serves a few purposes. So let's actually dive into this. Now we're going to start with what I call the energy audit. And what I'm going to ask you to do is take some time and think through at two levels, both personal and professional. What are the things that make you feel alive? And what are the things that make you feel trapped? And that can be people, relationships, family. It can be how you're spending money, assets, things that you do, experience. Can be how you're allocating your time, hobbies, activities, types of work that you're doing, things that you find flow doing. And I want you to really think through, what are those things that make you feel alive, that give you energy? And what are those things that make you feel trapped or zap your energy? Now, why is this important? Because think about it this way. If you can identify all of the things that make you feel alive and give you energy, and you spend more of your time doing those things and less of your time doing the things that zap your energy and make you feel trapped, how do you think you're going to feel about your business? How do you think you're going to feel about your life, right? We want to identify, what are these things that tend to give me energy? What are these things that tend to zap my energy? What are these things that make me feel alive? And what are these things that make me feel trapped? And I want you to audit yourself and go through. I've left, about 10 or so markers in here. Feel free to add more. I would get at least 10 in here for each of these though, and give this some real thought. I've seen people have a lot more in here. The more clarity you have and the more clarity you offer into this exercise, the better of a filter this tends to be down the road. All right. So go through, do your audit, and identify what are those things that are giving you energy and what are those things that are zapping it. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the legacy. Now, what do you think the likelihood of leaving the legacy or building the legacy that you want is if you don't do it on purpose? If you don't think about what that actually is, like what is it that I actually want to be known for? And what is it that I want to be leaving behind is something that most people don't spend time thinking about. And that's why most people, especially business owners, especially driven high performance people, tend to end life with a lot of regrets. Right. So I want you, after you've gone through this energy audit, I want you to fast forward to the finish line of life. If you have a 10 out of 10 life, if you just knock the cover off the ball and you have the opportunity to leave the legacy that you absolutely want, what is that? What do you want to be known for by colleagues, by family, by friends? What do you want to be known for? And then what do you want to leave behind? Like, what does that look like? And let's lock this in. Let's get really clear about what the finish line is. And then Let's pull that forward. All right. We're going to go to 5 years from now. What are you being? What are you doing? What are you having? And here's what I mean. Who are you being? What are you being? Are you a great dad? Are you an incredible friend? Are you high powered, highly successful entrepreneur? Who are you as a person? And this is the ideal state. You get to draw. This is a blank whiteboard right now. You get to say 5 years from now, this is who I am. This is who I'm being, right? Then what are you doing? This is largely about your time. Like, what are you doing with your time? How are you allocating your time? Do you have a lot of hobbies? Are you spending time with family? Are you working 7 days a week? Are you on the road doing keynote speeches? Are you on a remote island? Are you like, what are you doing and how are you allocating your time? And then what do you have? This is material things, do you have a second lake house? Did you buy that new car you wanted? Did you buy a 4-wheeler? Did you buy that boat? Did you upgrade the house? Or did you go minimalist? Did you go the opposite route? But what are you having? And we want to look at this 5 years from now. Now, this is a really important part where we start to think about Gates's law. Okay. Now, we may not buy that mansion in a year, but in 5 years, we probably start to see some compounding take place. All right. So who are you being? What are you doing? What do you have? And then what needs to be true of the business in 5 years in order for that to happen? Because if I am being a great dad and a great friend, and I am traveling the world with my family, and I am having a boathouse in Cabo and a house twice the size, okay, there's some characteristics that I have to have. Like there's some take home goals that I'm going to need this business to produce X amount in terms of profit that I can take. It's probably going to need to produce some degree of revenue, like some basic margins. So I've probably got a multi-million-dollar business. It's, spitting out a certain amount in profit, and I am spending my time in that business doing X, Y, Z, right? This has to align with this, because you can't have a lifestyle where I travel the world and I'm spending all my time with family and I'm surfing 20 hours a week and I have an enormous amount of material possessions and not have a business that supports that. Okay. These two things need to be congruent with one another and they need to be aligned. So we're starting to work backwards and we're starting to work into the business design, and it starts with you. It starts with you as a person, you as a founder. What is going on? Now, what needs to be true of the business? Size of business, size of profit, how you're spending your time in that business, right? And this may also speak to, do you have a small team? Do you have people that are taking care of some things? Or are you fully solo? Do you have just a few high ticket clients, right? So armed with this, what I want you to think through, all of these things, after you've gone through all of this whole exercise, what I want you to think through is, what does a 10 out of 10 look like for my business? What are the things that I must have? Like for me, I have to have full control of my schedule. For me, I have to be remote. For me, I have to sell high ticket services. For me, I have to have a scalable offers, right? These are the things that my business has to have. Now, there's certain things that my business can't have. Can't have a lot of demands on business travel. It can't necessarily swap a lot of time for money. It can't be a scenario in which I have to do everything. Like I have to have a small team in order to hit the goals that I want. Okay. So this should start to serve as a filter. What are the things, after you've gone through this exercise and you've thought about the business from your standpoint, what are the things that it has to have? And then what are the things that it can't have? Right. So now that we have this that's in here, we go, okay, we have some high level understanding of what the business needs to be doing in terms of revenue, in terms of profit. And what I want to do is I want you to plug this into this sheet here. Now this is going to take you over here and you've got year 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Take this number that you've put in year 5 revenue, take that number and plug it in here. For the sake of argument, we're just going to say this is a $2.5 million business. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to work backwards into year 1. All right. High level. Don't overthink it, right? Don't overthink this, but be reasonable in your year 5 goal, but be aggressive. Remember Gates' law. Okay. Let's back into it. And I think we'll do 1.5 here. We'll do 9,000 here, year 2. Okay, cool. So we've backed into this number. Now, does this have to be absolutely exact? No, not at all. Because what we're actually only going to do is we're actually only going to work at 1 year at a time. But I just want to have this to back into. Okay. So now we're going to look at year one. We're going to say, okay, we need to do 125 in year one selling services. All right. Now I want to work backwards into the 4 quarterly goals. And I said, you know what, I'm going to be building a lot here. So let me do this. And then I'm going to start selling some, let's do 25,000. Let's do 25,000. We're still building. And then we do 50,000 or 500,000. That'd be great. And then we do. So we can actually cut ourselves some slack here. All right. And that should roughly not give us the amount that we want. So we'll do 10,000 here and we'll do 15,000. All right. So I don't do math in public very often. All right. So we've got a couple of goals in here. Is this perfect? No, probably not, but be reasonable about this. Right. So within year one, I'm going to do 125. I know I'm going to be building, getting some offer stuff, going through boot camp. So, I'll land my first client, then we'll add in some revenue. Then I'll start really selling and scaling up my marketing. Okay, cool. So that works. Now I'm not going to do that for every one of these. Okay. You can, if you want. But I'm not of the belief that we can see that far out into the future on a lot of things. So I like to work with 1 year, set the vision so that we can build the roadmap, but then let's get to the next city, right? Let's set the roadmap for the full destination, but let's worry about this trip one day at a time. So we have the quarterly goals here. Now what I want to do is I want you to look at these goals, right? To do this, I want you to give me 3 to 5 high level pillars that need to be done, strategic things that need to be done that are going to make this happen, All right. So that may be, at a high level, I've got to increase my organic reach by 500%, right? I've got to build and automate a funnel. I've got to create a clear offer for a clear market. All right, cool. So I've got to have something to sell. I've got to build out some systems to market it, and I've got to get some traffic into that system. All right, that makes sense. Okay. Now you say, what needs to happen? What are the big rocks that need to happen each quarter in order to get that? Right. So if I want to increase my organic reach 5 times, I go, all right, what do I need to do each quarter to make that happen? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start engaging with 20 people every day on LinkedIn. Then maybe I do that for a quarter, just start getting my name out there. Then I'm going to start posting every day on LinkedIn. Then I'm going to double those LinkedIn posts. Then I'm going to take that content and start to repurpose it to other channels. Cool. Got it. Build and automate the top, middle, bottom of funnel. All right. Let's map out what a funnel looks like. We're going to do that in this boot camp. Cool. Got it. Install those assets, like build that system, get it rolling. All right. Get the MVP of content in there. Right. Then go back once it's all in there. Now we start optimizing that funnel. Like we start adding, we take it from MVP resources to something else, like as an example, and then create a clear offer for a clear market. We would back into the same thing. We would say, what do we need to do to create a clear offer for a clear market? Well, the first thing we probably need to do is identify that market and some high value problems that they have and a solution, right? So we're going to spend time, we're going to do this in the boot camp, by the way, identify high value market, problem, and solution. Then we're going to test selling that offer through DMs on LinkedIn. Then we'll deliver services and measure outcomes. Transformation. Then we'll adjust offer market as needed and commit to scalable service. All right. Something like that. But what we're doing is we're working backwards. I want to tell me 3 high level pillars. And then what are the quarterly goals? What are the things that you need to be doing to move that forward? This effectively becomes our roadmap. All right. Now we hop back over here. Now I want you to look at that and I want you to say, all right, Q1, what needs to change in your schedule in order for that to happen? All right. So we look at this and we say, "Well, I've got to start engaging with people every day on LinkedIn. You know what? I probably need to time block engagement 5 times a week." All right. Map out the entire funnel. I need to spend at least 2 hours a week funnel design, and identify we need to spend one, yes, and then we need to identify a high value market problem and solution. You know what? But by the way, that's not a quarterly project. We could do that in an afternoon. So I'd say one offsite to whiteboard and create hypothesis for market problem solution. Okay. Something like that. So that's what needs to happen. Now that should be pretty self-explanatory in terms of what you need to do now. You need to go block this. You need to block this time so you have the time to do that. And that's what we have here. Now, what I recommend doing is creating a fresh calendar in Google, and I call it the perfect quarter. I actually map mine back to the perfect week so that I can look at it and say whether I'm on track or not. But for the sake of boot camp and the sake of getting this thing rolling, create a fresh calendar in Google, call it the perfect quarter. Now, add the time blocks, fresh calendar, nothing else on it. Add the time blocks that you want, that you need to create based on the schedule, based on the changes that need to happen here. And then take those times and put them into your primary calendar. Here's why I don't recommend starting with your preferred and primary calendar is you'll work bottom up instead of top down. You'll start looking at what you have and you go, well, I've got that standing meeting. I can't really do that. You know what? And then you'll end up going back in here and you'll start changing this. You'll start going, well, maybe I can just do 2 days a week. Maybe I can do 3 days a week. It is better to start with a fresh whiteboard, identify what needs to happen, and then fit it into the constraints that you have than it is to look at the constraints and say, what can I do with that? Because when you really look at it this way, when you say, okay, I've looked at this, I know the stuff that gives me energy. I know the life that I want to build. I know what basically needs to be true of the business in order for that to happen. I have a few filters that I can use to make some business decisions. I've got a high level 5-to-1 planner here. You know, I've got this. I actually use the same structure and just update mine every single year. But I've got a 5-to-1 planner here. I'm starting to work backwards into this. These are the things that need to happen in order for this to happen. And this needs to happen in order for this to happen. And this needs to happen in order for this to happen. Right. So it's all completely working backwards. And that's why I recommend, when you go to time block this, start with a fresh calendar. So there you have it. That's the Vision Founder Fit exercise that I want you to work through. Now there's one more thing that I want you to think about with this. And it is, you saw how quickly I did this. I want you to finish the first version of this in a week. I want you to go through each of these exercises. So look at it and say, you know what? I'm going to give myself 30 minutes to do this. Give myself 15 minutes to do this. I'm going to give myself 15 minutes to do this, 15 minutes to do this. Like, look at this and say, I've got 3-4 hours that I can invest in this week. I want you to give me a rough version of it. And then we can always come back to it. Like, we can always come back and refine this, but I want you to work through the whole exercise so that if you have questions on it, you can actually let me know. Cool. All right, let's get to work. I'll see you in the forum.